I think like if we go into why have we seen such a big surge in it? Because we had it when it was, a few years back when it hit that $5-6 mark and everyone was losing their minds, and then it leveled out. And then here again recently, all out of nowhere, it jumped up to that $25,000 mark. Why do you think that is, that we've jumped in 2020 to cryptocurrencies jumping off the cliff?
Well, I think it's synonymous with what's going on with other market influences. So if you remember back, we covered in one episode, we talked about like stock prices and other assets and stuff. And so basically as the main currency throughout the world, the US dollar is what everything, not everything literally, but most other currencies are based off of. And if you own a Bitcoin that's worth $10 right now, and the US prints 50% more dollars, then each individual US dollar loses value by 50%. It's got a lag to it because people don't think about it that way. So it takes time for that to be realized, but you'll see the effects within a few months is what it seems like after looking at this year. So as we spent, what was it, like $4 trillion back in the spring, and now we're talking about another 2.6 trillion at minimum, and they're talking about spending even more for like government bailouts, all because of the coronavirus pandemic. You're going to see assets climb, and you see it in the same stock markets. Stock markets are also hitting the same highs, and it's not for any reason other than what we're talking about here. The reason the stocks are high and Bitcoin is high is because the US dollar is actually low. It's not that Bitcoin is all of a sudden more valuable. It's just the dollars to buy the Bitcoin are worth less, so it takes more US dollars to get it.
Makes sense.
At least in theory.
Yeah.
That's not, none of this is factual because it's all, opinion and faith-based, but...
Well, I also think the other piece, maybe not so much for stocks, but for the crypto, is the instability that we've seen in the world this year. So, I mean, we've not seen anything like this, at least in our lifetimes.
You mean the pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the reaction to it, how stuff shut down, and then the economic impacts of that. I know we talked about that early on in the podcast, but now we're seeing more of that, and people are going, well, what's going to happen? And then all the the stuff with the U.S. elections, and then people are just going, I just don't know. There's this other thing that's not tied to any type of government or any other type of economy. Let's try investing in this because it's unaffected by anything else. And everyone's going, yeah, let's go over here, Bitcoin. Oh, everyone's in Bitcoin now? Boom, $25,000.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And so that's why I'm so bullish on this, is because I think cryptocurrency as a whole, maybe it's realized through Bitcoin, maybe it's another crypto that solves some of the problems that Bitcoin faces, and it takes place in the long run, But the thing that makes me really bullish about cryptocurrency is that it decentralizes monetary currencies, just currencies in general. So whereas living in the United States, I'm very much tied to whatever ridiculous shit the US government decides to do. And that directly impacts me and my livelihood. And I think we go throughout our day-to-day recognizing the truth is that whatever the president does has very little to do with my day-to-day life and most people's day-to-day life.
Right.
But the economic policy certainly does. And like I said, it doesn't happen immediately. It's not like we're issuing bailouts and everybody's excited to get their $1,200 checks. But those $1,200 checks are very limited. It's easy to go through $1,200, but the inflation that is caused from that lasts
a while,
decades.
Yeah.
It depends on what we do to offset the inflation, but right now we're on no track to do anything about that. We're just here's another almost $3 trillion. Just keep it going, baby. So what I'm getting at here is to the U.S. government, money doesn't mean anything, is what it seems like to me on the surface. And I'm not an economist. You're not an economist. But I think we can all look at like the fiscal policy and recognize that this isn't sustainable. Eventually it collapses on itself. And so that's why I think Bitcoin is so attractive, because there is a literal finite amount of Bitcoins to be processed and mined and pulled from the earth.